Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address. Disclaimer time. This is where I tell everyone to lighten up. It's just a podcast. Trading is like that roller coaster at the amusement park. Thrilling, unpredictable, and potentially stomach-churning. What works for one person might leave another clutching their hat in the wind. Our hosts and guests, they're awesome, knowledgeable, full of insights, but we're not financial advisors. So don't rush to make any investment decisions based solely on our banter. Always consult with a professional or do your own research. Plus, let's face it, we like to have fun, laugh, enjoy the trading ride together. It's all in the name of good podcasting fun. So remember, take it easy, don't bet the farm, and keep your seatbelts on at all times. Thank you for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the China Shop, home of the Band of Traders podcast, and sometimes referred to as your mom's podcast. Yeah. I'm your host, Kyle. And joining us tonight is not only Vanta Trading's Baba Yaga and Mr. Banks, but we've also got G, Big Papa G, joining us again.
Heyo.
Longtime fans should remember that George was the one to introduce Dan and I to futures about 3 years ago. So that all thanks to a little newsletter, I think, that we signed up for on podcastguest.com.
Yeah,
you were one of like our first big names to join us.
Man, what a wild ride, hey? Here we are.
Right, oh, right.
Super happy and proud of you guys.
Ah, thanks, man. It's been about 2 years, I think, since we last chatted. So I think we're probably just going to skip most of the usual segments, so that way we can just kind of make the most of the time that we got with you tonight.
Let's do it.
Before that, though, let's do the promotional stuff. So I'm going to change things up. I'm going to let our honored guest go first. If you want to tell the people what you got going on, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, thank you guys for having me on. TRADEPRO Academy is a business that I started, but Victorio has kind of muscled his way through and taken over lately. And he's done a great job. But yeah, it's essentially a community for traders that they get together. Like when I first started it, I started because I left my job to trade full time, and I was really bored. I'm like a kind of a personality that likes social interaction. Maybe you guys could tell, but there's really nothing around at the time. So it started with the idea of just like, let's start a trading room. And then people were nagging us, asking questions like, hey, we should do education too. So TRADEPRO Academy has basically evolved to be a community for futures traders and options traders, whether you're just starting, intermediate to advanced phase. And one of the unique things about us is that, you know, Victorio has signed up for the crazy task of showing every one of his trades live. So it's a great place to kind of learn. And I would say the thing I'm most proud of is kind of the environment that people get to be immersed in, right? You sign up, you don't get belittled for not knowing things. It's like I see the team evolving, and I just sit back and I'm like, man, this is fantastic. I wish I had that when I started. So that's what we do. That's what we offer.
George, I want to throw one more out there because you guys never promote this, but the foundations course that you put together, that's kind of like that's just an add-in for the other packages that you guys have. That is one of the most like comprehensive, like the place I point all new traders to is like, if you want to learn how to trade and what all this stuff is, go sign up for this.
Thank you so much. You know what's crazy about that is sometimes we overlook it, right, with Victorio and I, because it's like we forget how important a foundation is. I know it sounds silly, but when you do it for like 5, 6, 10 years, 20 years, you kind of you forget that is probably the most, you know, the biggest difference maker for somebody just starting out. We're here throwing terms like lifting offers, hitting bids, but really people just want to grasp the foundation. So thank you.
Love it, man. I love it. Let's see. What about you, Baba? You got anything new you want to report on for Vanta?
No, I mean, chuck it along, come hang out, you know. It's been a good time this week. The last few weeks has been really fun. The environment has been really on the up and up. So a lot of people hanging out, a lot of interaction. Good stuff, man. I mean, I don't have anything super magic. Just, you know, come hang out.
All right, Banks, anything to add?
No, nothing really new. Kind of same old. We're still doing the morning show, morning prep. I think we're gonna start to plan on doing like more of the alpha drops throughout the week. So other than that, it's business as usual.
I love that. And I think that we're going to probably be talking a little bit with Vico. What we did today, rating his YouTube stream, I think was a lot of fun. I'd like to do a lot more of that kind of stuff.
He didn't tell me he went live, and I'm here spilling like my top darkest secrets. And he's like,
yeah, we could totally hear you in the background the whole
I
time.
know.
And then Victoria goes, people from YouTube are saying this. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Why are you on YouTube? You're supposed to be like leading the room.
He never told you he was planning on doing live streams.
Joke's on me. But
hey, Kyle, the other thing I would add is if you just want to hang out, like Fridays is lighthearted and easygoing, but it's also open to everybody. It's free. So it's like free chat Friday or whatever. We do it on the shop side. And then I don't know, we might start hanging out with Vico a little bit on YouTube here and there, at least rating them from time to time. So, but come if you want to see what's going on, come hang out on a Friday.
Yeah. Fridays are the best, especially with M periods at the end where you get to blow off a little bit of steam. But I think, oh wait, shit, it's my turn. Normally I go first. Show news for us coming out on Thursday. We've got the next installment of our new economic series. And then after that, we've got the next Cleo special ready to go. This time we've got her sitting down with Purdue. We are working on getting Anthony Crudelli on for one of those. I've been trying to tease George into getting one going too. So we might have a pretty nice lineup going here if we can continue doing those humanities specials.
Let me go before Anthony Crudelli. Don't put me on after.
You might be able to. He's been really hard to nail down.
Yeah. His marketing and branding's tight, so.
I know, right?
And his hair.
Yeah.
Don't forget the hair.
Yeah,
I'll put a bid on the gel that he uses any day.
Dude, yeah.
As always, you can follow us on Twitter at FinancialNeft1, or you can join that Discord that Baba was so kind enough to mention. You can get updates or send in suggestions for future topics or guests. You can visit bandedtraderspodcast.com to browse the guest directory, check out the deals and discounts we've collected over the years, including one for 10% off at TRADEPRO Academy that I had to bribe George for 2 years ago, and I don't think he remembered it.
I hope the coupon still works.
I checked.
Okay,
I checked it a couple weeks ago. It was still going. We'll have all those links in the episode description.
Keep a good thing running, man.
Before we open things up for today's discussions, I want to touch in on some of the bull predictions that we've made since it's been about 2 weeks since we've actually checked in on any of them. And George, that includes you too. I've got one loaded up here that you made 2 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Scared.
That one.
2 years is a long time frame, though. Come on. I may have been able to change my opinion if I was more active.
Well, we'll see if you want to revise it.
Okay, all right.
All right. Jobs report was the first one that we want to touch on here. So just looked up the numbers. Banks, you actually had the closest. The actual number was 201K. You ended up with 204, but you kind of fucked yourself.
Yeah, I also said 235.
Hedged. Yeah. So I just want the record to show. I wanted to be long.
Yeah.
I wanted to be higher.
Oh well, I'll take the win.
Yeah,
the house. He's the bank. The bank always wins.
I know, right?
So.
He just took the opposite side of us. That's just smart gamesmanship.
The dealer.
Let's see. You also had one out. No rate cuts till June. That one's still looking good. Bob, I didn't have anything outstanding for you. I think we've caught up on.
I think we're good. Yeah, caught up. I lost the last week and then screwed up the dates on the trivia thing, so I'm pretty much out of pocket at this point. So.
Let's see. What other predictions do we have here? Okay, Joel, that was the one that I had. I had predicted that he was going to win 2 M period challenges in the month of February, his first 2 ever. He took second twice, so I'm counting that one. Not to mention he won today's challenge, so congratulations there, buddy. And then, George, I think we're up to you now.
Oh, God.
So I went and pulled this clip, so I'm going to see if it actually plays it.
Oh, you got a clip too? Oh my goodness.
I do.
You couldn't just read it, Kyle? Come on.
No.
Oh. The other 2 predictions I was going to make are the number one, and I honestly believe this. China Shop podcast hits 1 million downloads in 2022. I see it for you guys.
Holy,
that's huge.
You got to help us with our marketing then.
So did we do it?
No, you're off by about 900,000.
Hey, man, that's 10% still. That's good.
Hey, we were really happy with the growth that we saw from that year. And then I also do have to take my hats off because your other prediction was that 2022 was going to present new traders with, quote, a lot of learning opportunities. And I think that one was spot the fuck on.
That's kind of a safe prediction, though, right? I feel like
I
you
know,
say that
right?
about every year.
Yeah.
A very political answer, but
Well, I'm going to have to clip out Vico's one and send that to you because he gave like a 10-minute economic lesson on like sector rotations and like what the Qs were going to do after the ES like peaked this top. And I need to go back and actually see how accurate it was, but it sounded pretty freaking spot on.
yeah, he loves getting messy with the details for sure.
Right. All right. That catches us up on all the bold predictions. We'll give Big Papa George here a chance to make a new one at the end. I don't know. We'll see what kind of time we have left.
Yeah.
But for now, I think let's just open up the floor here. Anybody got any questions they want to ask George? I can kick things off if anyone's too shy.
Well, I think you have some burning questions you want to ask George, don't you? Deep in your soul?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got one. Which one was it though? The one.
Careful,
Okay.
It's 10 p.m. on a Friday. This could be a career ender here for me. So just
So I listened to the listen to the first couple episodes since you've come back. Mind Over Markets, which love what you're doing over there, man. Some of those 2 episodes I listened to were like super powerful. It was really cool hearing
Thank
you
you.
get back into it. You talked though a lot about you called it your midlife crisis and pursuing a career in music, and I just want to talk a little bit about that before we go back to trading. Like what made you want to go like pursue that, and do you feel like you accomplished what you set out to do?
yeah. Honestly, this has the opportunity to get a little dark, but then there's like
really?
sunshine at the end. I actually started with music. That was kind of the first thing I would say is my true love. My wife listens to this podcast, that I'm joking, but if she doesn't, but like music to me was like the first love I had. Like I grew up in a neighborhood where, people kind of just idolize music or like sports and ways to get out of that environment. So for me, music is something I always kind of felt. My mom has a lot of background in music. She used to play piano and be a singer in Bulgaria back in like communism times and when it was frowned upon. So, like it was kind of always been in my blood. But when I was my early 20s, late teens, it's so far like ago, I don't even remember, to be honest with you. But March 2003, actually, one of my friends had invested in building a studio. We were doing really good work. We were recording a lot of good artists, producing music out of it. And he got in a car accident and ended up passing
man.
away. Yeah, it was really bad.
Oh
So-
shit! I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, it's that's kind of, thank you, bro. But
Yeah.
that's kind of like what at the time I looked at that. I'm like, look, if you're looking for a sign that it's not the right time, like I kind of interpreted it that way. So I put it on the back burner. Something was telling me I'd always come back to it, but at a different stage in my life. So I walked away from that. And then, about 2 years ago when COVID hit, 3 now, I was like, I have time. I want to do something. Victoria stopped coming to the office. The whole world shut down. So I was just
Right.
at home. I downloaded FL Studio and kind of the passion rekindled. So
I remember when you were playing around putting some of those music tracks together
Yeah.
before you left. Like the live sessions at the end turned into G's playlist.
yeah, I mean, it was actually a great exercise to just have some fun with
Yeah.
and not have to always look at the market. It kind of became a thing that I did while I helped me practice patience in trading, right? Because I had something else to do. Obviously, people in the community didn't appreciate me skipping out on questions just so I could like lay down some chords, like. So that was the time when I'm like, what, Victorio is at a stage where like he's such a phenomenal trader. So then the transition kind of started there. I know I'll for always be a trader, but I'll always be a trader for the rest of my life to some extent. And I'm back into it like fully now, but music's kind of one of those avenues I chose to pursue. And, like, has it been successful and how has it gone? Bro, like the music business, I used to say trading's the hardest thing in the world. It's not true. Like music, making money off of music has to be the hardest thing in the world. So, it's a challenge, but I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the love and the fun. And that kind of frees me from, the shackles. I get to make stuff I enjoy.
So you're not stepping away from it. You're still doing it, just not as
just
full time, maybe.
More part time because I have 2 young kids as well. I've actually this studio. I know it looks right here like a casting couch, which is like probably not the best place to be shooting this. But if you actually saw the view that I'm looking at, it's like crazy full of equipment. I built like a really nice studio. I'm never going away from it, but I've kind of just realized that life is about balance. It's not about being, to one extreme or the other. And I'm just like enjoying this new balance of trading and making music and just going with whatever the heart tells you.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I always just assumed you were just wanting to spend more time with your family.
Yeah. Well,
got him.
Mom is definitely not listening to this.
Wow. Seward.
I'll
The
cut
question
that
was
for you, buddy.
great, and the assumption, the response by me, I failed. But no, what's crazy with my youngest son Xavier, he actually like would fall asleep on my lap as I was playing music, and he'll come into the studio and bump his head and turn controls and stuff in the equipment. Like he's got it in his blood too. So
Yeah.
it is definitely an exercise that ties me together with my family. But being a father of two young kids, I've kind of went from having all the time in the world to half the time. And then in that time, now I'm trying to pack two different things, right? So it can be challenging, but super enjoyable.
I was gonna say, you look tireder than the last time I saw you.
Buddy, I went to bed at 4 a.m. last night. I woke up at 6:30.
Yo.
You're making fun of when we record these, but this is the only time I get Baba and Banks together at the same time.
Why is that?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, guys.
So
Just curious.
yeah, I have 2 young kids and one on the way. Baba has 5. Yeah, he's got 5.
Yeah. Voluntarily.
Well,
Bubba, I got a couch for you, bro. You want me to ship it? This here is a TRADEPRO couch, by the way. This was like in the first office and their second office, then just ended up back there.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
That's cool, though, guys.
so at night it just makes it a lot easier. Kids going to bed, and I don't know, not as much noise in the background. So it's either that or at
Beautiful.
like right at the open, and
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
happening. So
No. It's funny. I asked Vico a month ago before I heard you were coming back if he wanted to join us on one of these. He found out what time it was. He's like, "Bro, I'm gonna be like, there's no way. You guys know what time the bar's open?" I'm like, all right, dude. Sorry. One day you'll know.
Yeah, we got a dad of 5. He's for sure drunk already, right, Baba?
I know.
This is Heiko, all around great producer, sometimes decent guy.
What's going on, man? Is he coming in to listen in?
Yeah, he's gonna sit on the that's a casting couch. You can't sit there. You're gonna make me look. I just called it the casting couch, and now you just go sit there.
Gotta at least take your socks off.
Nah, you're good, bro. I'm just kidding.
All right, let's get some trading topics in here. Baba, you want to kick us off with something?
Sure. I think it was on the pre-show notes, but so you probably haven't been intently listening to all of our episodes over the last 3 months, which is understandable. Although I'd highly recommend to go back, with all that spare time you have. And,
Got him.
but so I've been trading for a long while and been trading like live in a room with people in front of people for the last year and a half or so. And but in November I transitioned from having a full-time super flexible job that allowed like that assurance of salary and benefits and all the perks of all that with the and I was able to still trade and be available to like trading. And I think I don't know, I re-familiarized myself with some things from like, it felt like in some ways I'd never done this before, like it was there was some real challenges, and I'm still, dealing with the comfort and the adjustment of the pressure and stress of, trading needing to be a large supporter of like my family.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've talked to a handful of guys that have been trading full time for, a lot longer than me. I mean, I've been in the game for 6-7 years, trading real, consistently and seriously for the last 4. And then, maybe even amped up like a year ago when we started, kind of being a little more public and forward. But I just really have been working on navigating all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been tough, dude. Like it's been, like in some ways it's felt like almost it's not starting over from a knowledge standpoint, but there's a measure of like the mental, emotional side that almost felt like, oh, you thought you kind of had all of that under wraps. Well, welcome to like what it really feels like,
Right.
and welcome to the real pressure, like the real pressure cooker. When you see like, so the running joke for forever is the gif of Wolf of Wall Street, and he's like banging the desk, 100-point runners, like we throw that around all the time. And last year, especially up until November, like that was always, we were like, it's always a thing. And like along with that, like, and this story is an example of what I'm talking about. And then I'd love to hear your thoughts and input of your experience. But and that was all well and good when there's a salary coming in, and like, so if you get to 80 points and it runs back and takes you a break even on your runner, like that's like, okay, yeah, that's like 2 G's that evaporated, but I mean, like that's not going to affect anything tomorrow. Like, but now, like the 100-point runner thing is like, I'm like, yeah, I mean, get to 50, 60 points. I'm good to be flat and high five myself. And, like I'm not going to let that come back anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just can't justify logically staring at a, large portion of a mortgage payment just evaporate back out from under you, even though you go into the trade with 3-4 contracts and scale, inside the first 30 or 40 points, then you're kind of hanging on to that one. Like some of those things that like, I never thought about that much before. Banks used to give me such a hard time about it. Like, my God, if you had all the points back on the trades that you tried to get 100 points on or more, like you would be killing it. Like, why do you let them come back? I was like, it doesn't matter. 100-point runners for the gift. Like, it's fun. It's like, that's not a thing now. Like it's definitely not something I'm interested in watching evaporate.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you transitioned into kind of supporting your family, trying to support your family with trading full time, did you experience some of those similar challenges, or are you about to tell me I'm alone here and good luck, figure it out, kid?
Never, bro. I've never had a losing day. What are you talking about? I'm just kidding.
Man, okay, that's nice.
No. That's
how much is TRADEPRO Academy again? So.
And now a word from the sponsor. No, like
Right.
I'm gonna keep it 100% real with you, bro. When I left Scotiabank where I worked, so I started there as a trader. I was trained as a trader. I was licensed for options and equity trading. The futures desk was a completely different operation at the time for the institutional clients. But when like I was trained as a trader and having the comfort of that job, I always performed well. Like the last year of my career at Scotia, I was actually doing sales, and my job was to be on the road and go to branches and sell investment products. And I could tell you, like factually, like for the whole year that I was pretty much testing myself to see if I would leave or not. Because that 1 year where you're like, all right, I'm going to set myself some benchmarks, and if I hit them, I'm ready to leave my job. You know what I'm talking about? Like giving yourself the confidence. So that year for me, I made more money out of trading than I did working for the bank. So I had that confidence. It was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And I barely did my actual job. Like I wasn't on the road. I was just calling people and booking like actual branch meetings, which is not good. But I'm like, hey, look, I'm transitioning here and I'm still doing the job. I was still like a top performer, but I just found a way to make it work for me. So I had this confidence where I'm leaving and I'm like, this is going to be great. Life is going to be fantastic. And then I left in September of 2016. October, I lost $25,000 US. In November, I lost, I think, 40. So,
Yes.
2 months after leaving, I was like, okay, what, like, I could swear, right? Yeah. Like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
Like, how was I so good before? And suddenly, like, a monkey would probably beat my trading percentages, Like, what is the root of this? And I actually remember having one day when I was laying on the floor of my condo at the time, and Reese, then my girlfriend, who's now my wife, comes in and she goes, what the hell are you doing? I'm laying on like a movie scene, laying on the floor, a bottle of like empty Jack Daniels, probably had a cigarette in my mouth.
Double Whopper.
Yeah. And she's like, double Whopper sauce on my shirt because I probably ate it already. And she's like, what the hell happened? I'm like, I had the worst day. I'm like, this is the first time I was actually honest with her about my performance after leaving work. Because she obviously knew, like, guys, when we do well, we tell everybody and their cousins about it, right? So this is the first time I actually opened up to my wife and said, like, look, and this is deep too, because challenges your role as a provider too. So I told her, I'm like, look, I'm actually losing money. I'm doing extremely bad, and I probably have 3 to 4 months of this pace and I'm done. Like I'm not, I have to go back to my boss and beg him for the job. And so essentially when that kind of moment hit, I'm like, what actually caused these trades? And what I ended up doing is going back, and basically my wife said, she said, do you want to do this or do you want to go back to working a full-time job again? She's like, I support you, whatever. And I'm like, I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I do want to, despite being down, I do want to try actually making this work again because I know I have it. I just got to find my way. She's like, then get the fuck up off the floor and clean yourself up. You know what I mean? She's like, you're not going to do it from down there. So to me, like, that was my low. That was my absolute low. And then I went back and I looked at my trades and I removed the ones that I wouldn't have done when I had the security of the job. And this might shock you guys. I was profitable. You know, all the losses happened from these new trades I was inventing. And so I kind of go and trace those trades back. And I'm like, I'm doing this out of pressure, right? I'm overcompensating. I'm entering bigger trades to erase the losses, sizing up at the worst times. When I have a good run, I have $1,000 of profit. Let's say I'm like, oh, that's a good payment for my mortgage. I then reduce the risk taking when I really should just be stepping on it. So I nailed down the behaviors that were leading these losses. And I kind of just reminded myself, like, look, if you're going to do this for a living, you have one life, man. And like the reality of trading is if you're going to fail, you're going to fail fast and hard. Like it's not one of those jobs where you're going to be mediocre. You're going to do great or you're going to just go for the ruins like I did. So adapting to that, I said to myself, okay, the one thing I have to change for my trading is when I have a fucking profit, I have to take some off. So I became really disciplined in my rule making. I said, okay, like here, what's my target? That's the first time in my life I had a target for the day, for the month, for the week. Up to that point, I was just going with it, right? So created super strict rules. How much money do I have to make to pay my mortgage? Do I want to live life just to pay my mortgage? No. How much do I have to make to really enjoy this lifestyle? How much money do I have to make for the fact that now I'm giving up a career in 10 years? If my trading doesn't work out, I'm pretty much unemployable. Right? What did you do the last 10 years? I gambled. Like, what is the opportunity cost that I'm really giving up of a career I could have had in a bank? Right? At the time, like, I was in a leadership development program. I had opportunities for director, you know, like, who knows how these things go, but VP, SVP level was in my sight. Like, naturally, I'm kind of ambitious, but that to me was the goal. So I look at that and I'm like, I'm not going to give all this stuff up just to goof around in the market. I'm going to actually take this and turn it into a job. So I guess to make it short, my biggest takeaways from that kind of downfall, literally on the ground with an empty bottle of Jack Daniels and my wife finding me that way, is like I gotta be more disciplined in this. How much money am I making? So when I get $1,000, like Baba, you said you have 100 points and then you used to take 40, right? Because when you're not relying on it, who cares if it's 100 or 40, right? 40, 100, 60, doesn't really matter. You're not relying on it. But now that you are, one of the biggest changes to me is I started locking in profit quicker. So yeah, I didn't have 100-point winners in the first couple months when I adjusted my trading, but I did have a 10-point winner every damn time. And so I would nail that initial target, and I calculated my initial target to pay my mortgage and my lifestyle, and I just kept doing that over and over and over and over again. When I made the money back that I lost, I started to get the confidence back. I said, all right, I could scale up that first target. I could start going for 20 points, 30 points. Because like if you're going to make 50 points, the only time you make 50 points, if that's your target, is when you make 50 points. You know what I mean? If I'm going for only 10 points, I'm going to win every single time that you get your 50 points and the times that you don't. You know what I'm trying to say? So I'm going for those trades where like I'm paying the bills. I'm going to make this a job first, and then I'm going to make it a dream. So I kind of, that was the approach I took. But man, those days were dark, and it's not really like, it's not the money that really affected me. It's like, man, I'm failing as a man, you know, like it's deep.
Yeah. I just wanted to kind of like your approach to, because we've had multiple discussions here about targets, and we've had Rich on here. First time we ever saw him like scream at anybody was yelling at us about having targets, and that's not a good idea. But I kind of like the approach that you talked about there. It's not necessarily like having targets per se, but it's about making sure that you're getting paid, and then actually having some like thought put into like how you've structured that whole setup or that whole system.
Exactly.
Like your first take profit is the most important one, is what it sounds like.
For sure. And like, the quickest way to stop losing money is just to stop losing trades, right? And I know it sounds like super simple to say that, but that's when I took a hyper focus on risk. Because when you have like, look, when you're working a full-time job and trading on the side, like, let's face it, there isn't like survival risk. Like, if you blow out your trading account, you work at your regular job 4 more months, you save up for another trading account, right? But when you're relying on your living from trading, the risk is amplified. So really, like, taking a focus on the loss management side. Like, I'll tell you what happened to my P&L. I started scratching a lot. Like, scratching mean I'd get into a trade, and then the first site where I had, like, I got in because I had 4 different reasons. I just lost these 2 reasons. I started being more aware of those rather than hoping and saying, it's gonna go my way. It's like, I like the trade based on this, and I just lost half of the things I liked. Should I still be in this trade?
Mhm.
So scratching my way out of trades is what kind of gave me the confidence that I could pay my bills, because it kind of hypnotized me to believe I am in control of my loss. I could cut it at any point. It didn't just hypnotize me; it created the mind muscle connection that you're actually doing it. Right? It's one thing to say, I'm going to cut my loss. When you click it, you've actually accepted it. So for me, scratching trades and having a target, but if it turns against me, I got out, is really what gave me the confidence to be like, I can do this as a job, because every dollar that I lose in the market, I've allowed that to happen, right? It kind of puts you in the driver's seat, and it's empowering, to be honest with you.
It's kind of fascinating, the idea of using the flatten button instead of letting the stops take you out, and building that, like, taking control of your losses is kind of what that feels like. Like, I'm
Yeah,
choosing to end this trade, not the markets. Like, it's like you're taking something back almost.
for sure. Now, there's going to be times when you do that, right? And then that's your 100-point trade that you would have had, and you
Yeah.
scratched out of it, right? It
Right.
does come with that too. So it's just, it's definitely a balance. But I think at the beginning, like, Bob, I don't know, maybe I just went on a huge tangent and there was nothing helpful to you there. But like, I think the part of the pressure of trading full time for income is that, like, you're now amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother. Like, those are the things that are the difference makers. To me, is like just hyper control of that risk until you get a few small wins. Like, I was going for home runs, bro. I quit my job and I was making $150,000 Canadian, which is like $12 US. But nonetheless,
Got it before I could.
I digress a little bit. It's still considered money over here. And then on top of that, there's a bonus, right, that I was having. So I started, like, I was in the realm making good money as a 20-something-year-old. And so when I left my job, I go to trading, and now of course, I don't say I want to make 60. I want to make 200 now, a million, like Wolf of Wall Street type lifestyle. But I think setting an unrealistic expectation is setting yourself for failure. So, like, dial it back, make it boring, make it a job, pay the bills with small points regularly, like, focus on eliminating risk as quickly as you can, and then keeping that win rate decent. And then when it's boring and sustainable, it gives you the confidence. Then you can stretch it out to as much as you want. Because if you know how to make $200 a day, you know how to make 20,000 a day, right? Like, in a regular job, you have to work your whole life to continuously get the next promotion. The fascinating thing about trading is you only get promoted once, right? You're either not profitable or profitable. Once you become profitable, 50-year career promotions happens on the day you become profitable, because it's all about just scaling.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, I think that too is one of the things. So, I mean, a lot of what you said is stuff that either we've like grown through, worked through, or talked through either along the way of our journey. Like, Banks and I have been trading together since day one. Like, he's the one that introduced me to futures. Before that, I was trading crypto and small caps. So, and you go, like, I went through this journey of trying to trade one or two like regular contracts, one or two minis, and I was like, man, it'd be a lot better if I had like some room to scale, but I don't have enough capital, like, looking back a few years ago. So, like, I've talked about this before, like, I dropped back to like trading batch of micros, like even like 5, 6, 7 micros, and just trying to maximize the results of that, the flexibility of scaling those, and then looking up at the end of a week or a few weeks or a couple months, and just like the points that you're able to stack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you look back at the number of points you're able to stack over the course of a few days or a month with 5 or 6 contracts. Well, then when things don't matter and it's whatever, we started sliding over and trading 4, 5, 6 minis. And, obviously the points then equal a lot more money, but it's also like, it's different when, and then trying to get that to feel as boring as what the micros felt. And that was like a big exercise.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that before, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And then like even a couple weeks ago, like the last stretch of time, the last few weeks have been much better, but like I would say the last couple weeks of November, so the middle of November is when I left. The last couple weeks of November, it was just like not really a big deal. December was pretty like hit or miss, and then January was super annoying towards the end of January and into February. I actually talked a lot more. Like Banks knew kind of this, and like I'm trading live in front of the room. Like people see, what I'm doing. It's not like I'm melting accounts on a daily basis or anything, but I look at what I've been able to produce, say like 6 or 8 months ago, consistently and relatively easily compared to, the last or, like January. And it's like, God almighty, like you said it. I mean, look at Banks. He's laughing because he knows like either he's laughing at me or laughing because of the irony, but it's
No,
like,
it's the chat.
what are you? Oh, what are they saying? Are they making fun of me?
No.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, oh, full port. Yeah, that's true too. Just let it rip. I guess that is an option. But anyways, just like that point you just made about like making it boring is something that I've really tried to lean back into lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like the last few weeks, just like getting reacquainted with that it doesn't have to be, fireworks. I don't really care. Like the room, everyone that we trade with, super supportive, super helpful, like good folks. Like no one's putting pressure on me to like be the guy, even though I'm, sort of on every day and doing my deal. And it's really been like an exposing thing. Like just to be frank, like, 10 months ago, I was like 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Like, I'm the freaking man, and to go through a bit of a reformation of your trading and a new challenge and it be kind of public, like, and it's not like Tank Fest 2024, but it just hasn't had the same vibe as it had prior. Like that part's been a little bit challenging, but I think that the boring part that you mentioned is something that we talk about a lot. And even Banks has been encouraging me to really like be real sharp, a lot sharper on entries and to get to scratch quicker is one thing we've talked a lot about. And if you look at my trading today, just as an example, that was like front of mind coming into today, which we, had a great morning, but I also scratched or like had 3-point stops, on or 4-point stops on NQ on like, 3 trades anticipating something. And it took 3 stabs to get it. But I also didn't sit there and eat, 15-point stop, 15-point stop, 15-point stop on 3 contracts each time and be sitting there staring down $3,000,
Right.
10 minutes into the market. So yeah, I guess I'm saying all that to say I'm glad to hear that there's an uptake time of like kind of getting settled into the new emotional
For sure
part and the pressure of it. And I guess in another way, it's awkward to be the guinea pig for our whole like crew because I'm like the guy over here.
It's a lot of extra pressure to like think about being like, man, what you're doing and what we do is like, I don't think it's as appreciated because imagine being LeBron James, but at the same time that you're actually playing basketball, you have a mic and you're explaining, I'm about to lay up right now. Watch this. All right. So the form I'm going to take as you're like actually doing this layup, like it's
dunk on this fool.
unheard of, right? Trading's a super high performance sport. And I think like another analogy comes to mind, when you finish college and you're so excited to.
No, I actually don't know what that's like.
No.
All right.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I just went 5 years, and then my advisor high-fived me, and I was like, "Oh, 5 years and no diploma, cool."
All right, well, imagine like training for a certain field, and then you finally get this job in the field that you've been training for, right? Like, okay, fine, forget college. These days, kids learn on the internet, anyways, like TikTok University, So, like, let's say you spend time educating yourself and learning about a craft. You build this conception of idea of what it's going to be like, and you go to that new job, and this whole time you've been selling yourself an idea of what you can do with your career on the positives, and you sit down at the desk, you're like, oh man, this is not nearly as sexy as I painted that picture in my own head. right? The realities of how this is actually a real job and the things that you didn't know you were missing, now you come to terms with the moment you sit at that desk. Trading's the same thing, right? So anyone who's making that transition to do it full time, guys, there's negatives that there's YouTube channels that aren't too excited to share with you. This is why I love what you guys do, because you're so open about it, you know? You're like,
well, how can you not be? I mean, you like, there's 15, 20, 30 people at a time at different times. They see it. I mean, they see and hear it. Like they're there. What am I going to say? Oh, just kidding. Got him.
Gotcha.
just kidding.
Like somewhat like, yeah, like I'm down 60 points right now, but just kidding. I have another account where I'm actually up 180.
Yeah.
So like, come on, I mean, honestly, dude, to like change, I don't want to dominate it all on like Papa's little adventure to be a pro. The only other thing I'll say is like, then Banks talked about this another time. It's like the timing of when this happened for me. My trading, like my reps and my like trading was fine. I wasn't like waiting for like, oh, once I get over this next hump or anything, then I'll go for it. But I also just wasn't planning for that transition when it happened. It just was like, this is the best time based on like the demands of the career that I had before and like what's in front of me and like what I'm about to either lock down and commit to for another chunk of time, or like we can just call it here and then I can, set sail on this next adventure. And that was really kind of the thing that dictated the timing of it. Not, all right, we've got, a year of, bankroll for this new excursion into trading, like that, the timing of it was a little self-imposed, granted, but it was not, wasn't the most long planned out thing.
If you could do it again, you'd plan it differently, maybe?
Yeah, probably. I mean, not a ton, but I would do a couple things different for sure.
Yeah, but when is the perfect time to leave a comfortable job that your mom's been telling you she's so proud of you to do your whole life and just say, fuck all this, I'm going to go trade, like...
My dad still has no idea how to tell his friends what I do.
Yeah, my grandfather in Bulgaria is like, okay, so what do you do? I'm like, I explained it to him, and he's like,
I make money.
Lift things? Do you move stuff with your hands? I'm like, no. He's like, then who the fuck is paying you? I'm like, oh my God, like I'm not going to get through to this guy, right? So it's like...
I create wealth.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't understand what the problem is.
So there's never a perfect time, man. Yeah. Honestly, I think just allowing yourself a little time to have to actually transition, to adjust, right? Because we're so hard on ourselves as traders. We're performers. Like I always joke, I don't look like an athlete, but my brain is like an athlete. I'm like 70 pounds over the weight of a healthy athlete, but mentally you have to have that kind of game. So you got to give yourself some time. I think people are really hard on themselves too, of the expectations that they have.
Want to hear something wild, George?
Yeah.
You talk about the mental things being a sport. Chess players, like actual no shit grandmasters, when they get done playing a tournament, like they have like the same kind of calorie losses as marathon runners.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's game right there.
That's crazy. How I work out now. I play chess.
Yeah, these two nerds, I'm on a group chat with these two nerds over here, and they're like, oh, that bishop in the middle, that pawn to G2, man, that really got me. And I'm over here reading this stuff. Like, only chess I play is like the 1 minute or like 5 minute, like ultra bullet speed games. Like, I can't do this. These guys sit there and mull over a position for like 5 minutes before they move it.
Banks
it's unbelievable.
He's stolen some wins, man. I've been up like rooks and bishops out of it. He's managed to sweep out a win out of it. Like, drives me nuts. Longtime fans of the show should be familiar with the lender formerly known as Sue Pullen, and I'm pleased to announce that she's back, fresh off a rebrand and ready to help as Sue Mackey. Sue is a certified mortgage advisor at Fairway Independent Mortgage, an equal housing lender who focuses on finding the right product for you and your needs. She has over 20 years of experience helping thousands of homeowners. Whether it's purchasing, refinancing, or even a reverse mortgage, Sue will help. Sue's licensed in 36 states now, so reach out and let Sue Mackey it happen for you. The best way to reach her is to just give her a call at 520-977-7904 or in an email, spullen@fairwaymc.com. Fairway Independent Mortgage has an MLS number of 2289. Sue Mackey has an MLS number of 206048. That email again, spullen@fairwaymc.com, and that phone number is 520-977-7904. Shoot Sue an email and let her know she needs to update that address.
Have you guys ever tried putting a heart rate monitor on yourselves while you trade?
Yeah, there's a couple of people who do.
Bear does that in the audience. He's a big proponent of that.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. Like to me, I was at a point where like I had this idea. Like I'm a dinosaur. I don't look it, but I'm 38 years old as of this
Dude,
year. So
same.
yeah,
I used
solid.
to be
Yeah, bro.
38.
Let's go, baby.
Big Now you're 37. You're Benjamin Button. So like when I had this idea to do this heart rate monitor thing, like I had to buy a device like this big to do it back in the day because I had this idea like I literally like a cardiology machine. I had to go get one from a hospital, and they didn't sell it to me obviously. But the point I'm making is what I thought it would show me versus what I actually discovered once it became more stream and cheap to buy, like the Fitbits way back in the day, is my heart rate didn't drop while I was trading. The longer I traded, I just became better at managing it. So like your heart rate is still elevated, like 20 some odd years in the game. Like I measure myself occasionally, and my heart rate is still like it's not 170. I'm not sweating, but it's definitely higher than my resting heart rate, right? And so that tells you that quantifiably, that tells you that no matter how hard you try to make this feel like there's no risk, you're not lying or cheating anybody. Your body knows you're taking on risk. So just embrace that, right? Manage it, be in it for a small period of time, because as much as you're losing money, you're losing health, which you can't replace. So it's like that to me was also a catalyst to be like, holy shit, like it's fun in games. I'm taking these big risk trades and sometimes they pay off, sometimes I lose, but I'm losing health. I can't top that account up if it blows out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Bear says he uses a Polar H10 chest band for heart rate monitoring. If it goes over 100, then he knows he's emotionally compromised and takes a break.
See, that's awesome. See, like it quantify, like, and I wouldn't take that number and everyone just apply it. I'd find your own, but with that technology, it's actually like really, really interesting. Like for your heart rate to escalate, that's a serious chemical process going on in your body that you can't ignore.
Says it took him a while to dial that in. I remember him. We were doing an M period challenge, and he threw on his heart rate monitor and was like hitting some of those numbers that like we're in sim mode, like just doing a friendly competition, and he's noticing some spikes on that. Like that's crazy.
Spikes and dips. If your heart rate dips, then you should probably stop.
If that thing slows down.
If it dips too much and too fast, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting, and that's also a little more measurable, which we talk to folks a lot about writing down not the emotions you feel when things come undone. So like if you have like a blow up day, like but writing down the things that like the couple of mile markers right before that, like having those things like literally written out, so like when I say the phrase whatever, for me,
what am I doing right now?
Yeah, what am I doing? Or who would be buying this here?
Love that.
Like if I think the phrase who would be buying this here or who would be selling this here, if I think that, usually that's like 3 or 4 steps before I'm like trying to fight a waterfall move in one direction or something like that. You know what I mean? And so having those written out, that's way before you've done any damage. Truly, you may have taken a stop or two, but you haven't. I mean, that's part of the deal. Like, but you haven't unwound something that's going to take days to get back. But having the heart rate, or weeks or months, but the heart rate thing is that doesn't depend on you. Like that's quantifiable. You can see that, and that's really interesting.
But I do want to give Banks a chance here to weigh in. We talked a lot about scratching. That's kind of his forte. I didn't know if he had anything he wanted to add to that conversation.
Yeah, so I started off as a scalper. So the fastest I could go to break even, the better. And I'd be willing to take, a break even trade any day, knowing once you get into that good trade, it's going to work out. So, usually I would trade a little bit more size, but my take profits were a lot smaller, but the risk was limited as well. Now I've kind of settled into taking more of what the market's going to give me for, what I look at for liquidity wise, what I look at for, market structure. But I do like the point that you talk about of always paying yourself on that trade. So maybe that first take profit is brought in a little bit. I've never actually thought of that. It's more of like, if this trade's going to work, it's going to work. Where I'm going to have that change of structure, I'm going to have that market move that I'm looking for, or I'm taking a break even on the move that goes. Yeah, I've never really. I've thought of it before, but since I've kind of switched, it's been a little bit more of a like I want to see more of structure move, and not as much of 5 points, 10 points, or whatever it is. I want to see that move develop.
Damn it! If you're gonna switch yours up, then I'm gonna have to relook at mine too, because I learned to take my take profits from the liquidity stuff that we've talked about a lot.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, if that's your structure, I mean, you just got to lean into that. Like, but the thing about what I think, like going back to what Baba was talking about, like just to get a 100-point runner, to me doesn't make sense. Just to say that you did it, it makes sense if you're taking it off at a spot where you think the market could change. And that may be 80 points, it may be 70 points, maybe 150 points, whatever it is. But I mean, you got to look at what your trade is there and what your game plan is. Like a 20-point take profit in the middle of nothing doesn't really mean anything for me. If buyers are going to prove something, they need to have this move to go take something out, and that's what I've always lent on, is like that change of liquidity of where buyers need to prove it and where they need to go to.
Yeah, I love the idea too of like kind of blending the two a little bit. We've talked about that because I've pulled my targets in dramatically, compared to what they once even were like a month ago. I've tried to peel those things in, but at the same time, there's like give and take. It's one of the nice things to be able to trade a handful of contracts versus just being like in onesie twosies. I think onesie twosie trading is actually way harder than 5Z 6Zs, as long as you're not entering like a moron for the most part, because you can pay yourself a little bit, just to cover the cost of doing business. And then you have a batch of contracts to challenge, okay, if buyers are going to win this moment or this next 15 minutes of moments or whatever, this swing high is what we have to get, or this, where we broke out, where this offer came in heavy, like we've got to go turn it on those guys' head. And then that creates the opportunity for the next, push higher. I mean, it's a little give and take there. That's why I like, having more contracts. It gives you a little flexibility. You know what I mean? Like you get yourself paid a little bit and then you kind of play with it.
I'm not sure if I'll ever go away from micros just for that reason, just the extra flexibility, unless I'm trading like 6 minis like you are one day.
Well, I'm not trading 6 minis right now. I mean, trading 3 or 4.
Right.
I actually talked to Banks a couple of days ago about like trading like 15 micros or even 20, just for the flexibility. Just for the flexibility of, scale a little here, scale a little here. The overall risk is less, but also I think that gives the opportunity to perform. Man, I would have had a lot more exits today if I was trading 15 micros instead of 3 or 4 or whatever it was minis when we were moving along. But yeah, Banks, you got anything else? Sorry, we kind of delved off into that.
No. I mean, going into the scaling part, I mean, like what G said, I mean, I think scaling is probably the hardest part about trading, because it means that you're sizing up. And when you're sizing up, typically I don't know, I guess it's just the psychological factor of seeing more P&L or seeing, I don't know what it is, but there's something that goes from going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3. But, like today, like, what we talk about, like, it's a good thing to run out of runners. Mm-hmm. It sucks when you see it go another 100 points, but in all honesty, like the normal rotation on NQ is not 400 points. It's
imagine if it were.
Yeah, I know. but that's the thing. Like, and I think that's where people get. And I even sent a text over to Baba. I'm like, dude, I left so much on the table today, but I would assume most people did.
I mean, I can say exactly what you said. He gave me a figure number in the thousands, and he's like, "This is how much I left on the table today." And I was like, "Well, you'll have that."
but that's the thing. I mean, you're gonna run out of scales on a trend day, but it's a matter of imagining, or I guess managing those rotations within a normal trading day. Like a trend day happens, and I don't know the statistic. Maybe you do, but I would say it happens.
Typically 30 is thrown around, 30% trend
days,
70%.
It's like 25, 27% of the days have like our categorical trend day characteristic type. So no tick OR or barely ticking the OR in one direction, staying above VWAP, blah, blah, blah. All the things, IB mid holds, blah, blah, all that.
Yeah.
It's like 20, it's like 25, 30%, 27, I think, when I ran the numbers, but
Yeah, and with just knowing that factor, and you're looking at your normal rotation of what your move is, say it's 40 to 80 points, and you have a runner set for one of those days, you're gonna leave a shit ton of money on the table.
Yeah.
Just when you look at it, and I think that's one of the hardest parts about trading is because you see these move happen, and you're like, hindsight, it's easy to say that, but you're like, man, I could have held that thing all day. But in the but when you're looking about scaling, like going back to your point, more often than not, when you don't scale at 10, 20, 30 points, you're most likely going to take a break even stop or take a stop on that trade. So I do think bringing it in, especially with where we're trading too. I mean, trading at all time highs is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
I think the two more thoughts I have about that. I was telling Kyle, give me a few more weeks, I'll be flying with the Eagles again. Like we'll be the Runner Brothers together. Like I'm cool to let them run. When we get to a certain point, I'll jump back in the 100-point runner game, strong, big strong. But I've been really looking at the rotation stuff. Me and J Mac and someone else, it might have been Bear, had a great conversation midweek about rotations and like expectations and scaling and just the practical application of that. And one of the things that I did a little bit of work on last few days, something I was working on before, kind of quit paying a whole lot of attention to it, is like leaning into a certain range of about like 2 rotations of NQ. So looking at like 80 points roughly as like a kind of that chunk of the market, like an 80-point range. Defining that, quantifying where you would say range low and high is, and navigating the bulk of everything inside of that. And even inside of that, like the first 45 points or so is like, that's the pay dirt. And then everything else is icing. Because if you think of like a volume profile, and we have our value where 70% of the activity happens, and then we have the tails. It's a great world to think that you live in the world where you buy the bottom tail, sell the top tail, and you don't scale anywhere in the middle. But in reality, so much of the price action, even for like day types, what's the most common thing we see? 7 out of 10 days is not 400 points one direction. It's not super strong trend one direction. It's that 40 to 80 point impulse move, and then that roll up and back down, and then we kind of boil a little bit and sweep, and then we might rotate another rotation and a half. So just accepting that that's more common, and then leaning into paying myself inside of that, something that I've really kind of put to the forefront here, super recent, which I think is going to be helpful. It just alleviates a little bit for me, like just alleviates a little bit of like, even like you said, G, like, what is your target? What are you trying to get? Like I have structural targets, so they may be pretty stretched out. So like when I don't have a great structural target, like that gives me something to lean into,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
No, take it, baby.
Damn, now I got to say something great. Like, you know what it is to me? Like, I think, how many days can you wake up and say, today we're going to move 100 points and be correct about it? Like, 0, I'd say, right? Like, I think the problem is that we're benchmarking ourselves according to what happens in the market and not what our analysis was. Because, like, every morning you do your analysis, say, hey, I have a level here that's 30 points away, right? And then it ends up being a 100-point day. And now you're like, holy shit, I could have had 100 points. But your goal at the beginning was 30 points. So now the job's changed. You've done the job and you're looking for more. And that's equivalent to like working at a bank and your boss says, here's a report you have to finish by 9 p.m. on a Friday. You can't go out with your friends, so you're done. And you finish it and you're like, I want to stay longer. Like,
yes.
Who is that psycho? Like, sure, maybe they're the ones that get promoted, but at what cost, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, the job isn't for you to compare yourself to what the market's doing. It's to compare yourself to what your analysis has done. Because if you expected 30 points and you've captured 25 of them, but you missed 75 on a 100-point day, I would argue that you've done the job really well. Because this was your reasonable expectation in the morning.
Yeah.
Now you got a Hail Mary and you're suddenly changing your expectation to get more of it, which that's not how the game plan was, right? So
yeah, I love that.
It's super easy to look at things with hindsight and get real critical on yourselves, but you didn't know that information beforehand.
That's why writing down a plan, which I'll just plug this, writing down a plan, writing down levels, writing down kind of your go no go spots, and then reviewing that at the end of the day, which we've talked so much this year about narrowing the gap between the prep work and what you're able to accomplish. And I think for me, that's the benchmark, is what we planned and where we wanted to participate. We look back and go, okay, I did or did not fall in line with that. And I think that's like gold, dude. You said you had to come up with something good to say, but you did a great job coming off the dome. So
thank you, man. And that's how you make trading boring, right? Make it
Yep.
predictable, make it expectable, and don't fall in love with random girls just walking by. Just stick to the one that you build the relationship, have your plan, execute that. Don't let everything lure you into a new direction and different side street for the night. Go execute the plan.
You guys have both touched on this boring aspect, making trading boring, and I wanted to kind of throw this out there. Just listen to that second episode that you did since you come back, and that was one where you talked a lot about like when trading gets boring, like lean into that. Don't try to overcomplicate it again. And that was a trap that I think I'd found myself falling into a lot. It could start to get kind of boring, or I feel like I wasn't doing enough. Like I'm doing the same things I've been doing, but it just sometimes when it feels simple, it feels like it needs to be complicated to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's not true. Mm-hmm. And if you constantly introducing complexity just for the sake of doing that, it just sets you back so far.
You know what's fascinating about that is that what you're actually going for when you're trying to make a job exciting is dopamine, right? And it's fantastic. If you're so excited trading, it's great in the first year or two. And then if the third year you're still excited, I would argue you're on a crash course trajectory. Like there shouldn't be any excitement because you're taking the wrong thing from it, right? That dopamine increase is what you end up craving. And we talk about trading being a career. One way to make it a career is to not get addicted to doing it. And there is borderline addiction there too, right? Being in a trade, it's like you don't have to be in a trade to be called a trader. In fact, I bet most people who are starting out would be shocked by how few trades successful traders make. Because, hey, here's a novel idea, right? You wait for the right setup and you take that one. So I think like that's kind of important to remember too. That's why boring is good, because what's happening is what you plan to happen. And that's fine.
It means you're not being surprised as much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Banks talked a lot about that, like the need to be almost like addicted to it in order to like be able to take in all the knowledge and everything that you got to do to supercharge that learning curve in the first year or two. But you have to like grow out of that, I think is what the way you kind of phrase that.
Yeah. I mean, in year 1 and 2, I mean, to get through that learning process and that curve and kind of develop yourself, I think you almost have to be. But then there was a point where like I would trade, like I would try to be like, man, I got to trade overnight during the day. I got to be looking at the markets all the time. And then I got to a point where I'm just like, at night, I'm never going to look at this market. And now, like, if there's a setup there, like I'll trade it. But I really don't try to trade anything overnight or anything on those type of setups, because it just clears your mind. You kind of step away, look back, and, spend time with the family. And it's just not as important as it was at the beginning. But I do think, like, at the beginning, like, you almost have to be addicted to it, to a sense, to where you kind of develop into that, into the way that you want to trade.
You've got to devour knowledge like it's going out of style.
Banksy, you say so much in such a like concise and small, like you just lay it down so precise, bro. It's impressive. Like you communicated so much with that statement. I think if people actually take that in and think about it, it's actually mind blowing. Because
he already drops the zingers too.
Yeah, jeez, that would have taken me 45 minutes to explain, bro.
Right.
Well, I mean, I kind of have to, because with working at a bank, you kind of have to you kind of have to dumb it down a little bit for people.
Yeah. Oh, shit. I thought he was about to say.
I didn't mean here, though. By the way,
I thought he was about to say he has to get it compacted in like one sentence because he hangs out with me all the time, and I just blow it out like diarrhea from the mouth. So
I got one last point I wanted to say on that, and it was the growth for me. I think finally came from the realization that it's fucking exhausting to be emotionally tied to the markets.
Yeah.
Like that, like to have the P&L like be like the thing that makes you either happy or sad. And like eventually I just got tired of that, or I almost feel like that emotion got kind of burned out of me. And now that's like my big warning sign. If I start to feel that, like that's why I took Wednesday and Thursday off this past week. I started to feel some hints of that returning on Tuesday, and I was like, you know what, I need to stop and get this right now.
Wow, that's profound. Because like when you have kids, when I had
Mhm.
kids at the end, like I didn't realize how much I was exhausting myself when I didn't have kids. Because then when my kids wanted to play with me afterwards and like, like, Dad, you're finished working, I had nothing to give them mentally. So that's actually a really good point. Is like,
Yeah.
you got to have mental capital after you're done trading too. It's not just for trading, because you finish trading at 11. Then what are you going to be like, comatose for the rest of the day? It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure my wife loves it when I could finish trading and just want to go lie down and take a nap and forget
Yeah.
about the day,
It's so fun, Kyle.
Yeah. It's like, are we going to do anything today? Or are you just going to go sit in the basement all morning?
Yeah, a little of that. Hey, can I ask you something else? You said something. I really appreciated what you said. I'd love if you would share some more thoughts about it. You said trading can be difficult, and that whatever. I don't remember the exact phrase. And you said there's things like that people on YouTube channels probably wouldn't want to tell you. And we have found, or I will say we have found. I'd like to be really intentional about how I phrase this question.
Hit that mark clip button when you got it right.
Or you can just edit it if it sounds bad. So I'm not trying to indict like anyone or anything, but I would say our market as a whole, the trading professional / semi-professional streaming and running a room market that we all are in, I think oftentimes sells a pipe dream of 3 clicks a day, and then you go get on your yacht to people.
Lambo.
And they do it at it's a devouring almost, in my opinion. And so we have definitely taken. I appreciate you mentioning like you guys are honest and open about this or whatever, because we've taken the approach that like, I mean, kind of like, hey, if you want to know what it's really like how this really goes every day, then like, you're going to see it here. You'll see it at Trade Pro Academy as well. But I'm just saying, like, we definitely lean into the good, the bad, the ugly, the difficult, also the upside. Like, there's great days. Today was a banger day, man. Like, we were cleaning house. I don't know. I mean, it was a good day. Like, it was a really good day. But what are your thoughts about that? You've been around for a while. Have you seen that transition to be heavier towards that like lifestyle sell kind of thing in the last few years? Has it always been like that, or like what do you see? What do you see? What do you think about it? What do you feel about it?
In 2001, when I started trading, it like to actually get any material on what it was to trade a market was like it was non-existent. So now we're kind of on the other end of that spectrum, right? It was like, first of all, you couldn't get information. Second of all, it was nuts. It wasn't a desirable thing to do. You're kind of like an outcast. You're like, oh yeah, you want to be a trader. You're not part of society. You're broken, right? So flip to now, where it's like, oh, you're working a 9 to 5. You're gonna be depressed and you're gonna retire one day. Haha. Now I'm gonna like go do something like now we idolize people starting businesses. So there's been like a complete pivot. But like from learning trading, it kind of boils down to one thing that popped in my head. Is like the realization that when you listen to somebody giving you content or advice, like, some people don't take the responsibility to understand, listen, when you're actually teaching somebody about this stuff, like their intention is they actually want to learn and make a change for their family. And some people just screw those people outright with no remorse. So when you're listening to anyone giving you material and what they're telling you, I would say go with how the person makes you feel, not what they tell you, because that's important. And the one barometer for me is like, when I listen to anybody, I ask myself, are they trying to convince me that I'm capable of trading to empower me to do it? Or are they trying to convince themselves? And if you just kind of use that one test, you'll find out right away.
Bro.
Yeah, you'll find out right away who the real people are that want actually have your best interest at heart. Because, I had this discussion with another trading educator. I'm not going to put him on blast because he's actually a fantastic trader too. And we talked about this balance of trading versus teaching. And he was like, this is the first time I considered this notion. It's like the person who wants to join your trading room wants to know that you can trade, but they would actually be benefited the most from you if you didn't trade. You know what I'm saying? Because if you think about it, it's like it's actually a very fascinating point. It's like they technically want to know that you could do it so they could believe what you're saying, but they don't want you to do it. They want to help you do it. That's all that matters at the end of the day. So it's like, when we have these good days, it's exciting for us, and bad days. But to me, like, the industry used to be about putting information out and then helping people come to their own conclusion, more like a group, like a team. You approach the market together, but nobody really like shared the context of the trades. And now it's evolved to something where, people do show trades. And I think people that honestly do it, like you guys, are like, here's a good day, here's a shit day, here's like a divorce day, like, this is it. This is probably going to be over.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, it's been fun kind of day, and I'll never see you again. Like, I think being vulnerable and honest like that is the benefit of doing it with that style where you're showing trades. But I think the problem is that people out there then abuse that. They'll then open 2 accounts, put the opposing trades on each account, and then show you the one that wins, right? And then that's kind of tarnished the business. So for me, it's like I've seen the evolution of having nothing to having too much. And I think, somewhere in between there, you kind of have to find, like, follow the same rules you do in regular life, right? Like, we know so much about life. Most of us, we've learned lessons, but we throw all that out the window when we start trading. It's like, remember, how does somebody make you feel? And usually inside, you have your subconscious mind's powerful enough to know when somebody's bullshitting you. And don't believe it. Don't allow yourself to believe that, what they're trying to sell me, if it feels wrong internally, maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe I just don't know what order flow is. So this tool they have is definitely going to be the thing I need. I think that's the problem traders make. And then they come to TRADEPRO Academy, come to you guys, and they're like skeptical. I don't believe in this. Like, I didn't rob your $20 out of your pocket, bro. You decided to pay it to the other guy. I'm just trying to help you out. Right. So the industry is definitely evolved a lot, and I think people who don't care about trading are now in the business of teaching people how to trade, right? People who don't care about trading and don't care about people are teaching people how to trade. Like, if those 2 things aren't true, just stay in your bedroom and do it by yourself, right? But I think the passionate people like you guys, I could tell by the way you speak, the way you interact with people, like just doing a podcast, going through this energy, is like, that's the people you got to find and then never let them go. Like, I know traders on the trading floor actually still trade with each other on Zoom, even though it's 20 years later, just because they have that familiarity of the energy,
cool. I love that. Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Bob.
I was just gonna say, I think the thing that we talk a lot about at Vanta that I bet you guys at TRADEPRO do as well, because I know Vico, he's not streaming so that people, and this is, for anyone that's listening in the future, and just if I'm streaming on a day or Banks is streaming on a day, I don't have my stream up and my trades up so that when I click, someone else can click. Mm-hmm. I have them up to model, like, this is my process as it is, like, developing in front of you. Like, you've heard me say that if we break above 44 and we're bid, that I want to be long above 44 today because that's the top of value for this distribution. And how I go about taking that from an idea and a plan to applying it during a day when the market's moving around, that's the nuanced, what can be difficult about trading that I would like to show you, like, and model. But in no way are we, like, calling out, like, okay, guys, 44, everybody get long.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You'll never hear those words come out of my mouth. And, like, we do this, we look at the same charts the same way every day. It's the same process. And the whole point of doing that live for everyone is, to, like, cast a vision for the plan for the day, but it's also to model the behavior of, like, if you want to do this and you want to have a measure of success, you have to have, like, a fixed way that you approach the information, the data on the screen. You're organizing it with a TPO chart. You're organizing it with a 4-hour chart. You're organizing it with a daily chart. You're organizing it with volume. However you're organizing it, you got to do it the same way every day and, lay it out, So for us, it's about modeling for people that almost that monotonous, repetitive, boring thing day after day. It's definitely to the point of, like, making all of that accessible and visible, not like, okay, everyone get ready. 1, 2, 3, now we're all long and now we'll all get rich together. Like, That's bogus, man. If someone is looking for that, then I don't think long term they possess at this point the type of curious drive that will be necessary for success, because they're handicapping themselves. If you're
Yeah.
looking for somebody to call it all out for you, you're just handicapping
Just give them
yourself.
your money. Just give them your money and they'll trade it for you. You know, like
That's just trying to defer risk is all that is.
Yeah.
You're
It's
just
lack
trying
of,
to
you don't have to take responsibility. If I say buy here and you buy and you lose, you can be pissed off at me instead of yourself.
Can I tell you a really quick funny story of how this? Okay, so one time we hired a marketing firm, and we were like, okay, like I think if we could push this TradePro Academy concept to more people, we're saving them from going to another place. You know, the mentality is like, if you believe in your product, you want people to be there. So like, how do we reach out to more people? So we hired a marketing firm that knows very little about trading. So they put together this sales pitch, and the person that we hired is on the call listening to me do it. And then I start out the webinar, but I'm like, welcome to trading. It's the shittiest business in the world at the beginning. It's absolutely horrific. And her notes are like, trading gives you the ability to have financial freedom, you know? Like, so
eventually.
yeah, exactly. It's like the truth, I think, got blurred by marketing. And also that's kind of a funny analogy for trading itself, right? It's like when we're showing trades or discussing it, I think people are like, you should show more trades, you should show less trades, you should trade bigger so we can learn, you should trade smaller because I'm not there yet. You know, you have so many different people, but we're just putting our life on the internet, basically. You know,
Yeah.
It's no different than OnlyFans. Oh, well, it is. But hold on, what's the Mark Clip thing?
What's
Mark
Trade
Clip.
Pro?
Yeah, right.
What's trade? What do y'all do at Trade Pro? We trade with our clothes on most of the time.
What? That's so
Yeah.
old school.
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
It's a question about whether socks are on or not. though.
Yeah, but like we just put our life on the internet, and I think you choose the information that is relevant to you, and that's what makes trading hard too, right? I find people when they're like, you know, I'm struggling, can you help me and take a look at what I'm doing wrong? It always comes down to, okay, what's your plan? My plan is to have a 30-point trade. Why the hell are you looking at the DOM order flow that changes 19 times in a millisecond?
Right.
You know, you have 7 billion chances to confuse yourself by the time you get 30 points. Clean up the charts. Clean up the charts and like give yourself a chance at the beginning. Like order flow on a DOM is way too advanced for somebody looking to take 30 points, right? So like Banksy, you said it, you started out as a scalper, right? And I think when we start with new members, we tell them like wait for the 30 points, then we throw up the DOM. So it's like the information you expose yourself is directly correlated to the success you have. And that's the challenge I had coming back, because when I left trading about 2 years ago, you should have seen my monitors. I had 8 monitors, and today, like, I do it on my laptop, you know, so
Yeah.
I really need all that nonsense. So I guess the challenge here is just like the markets, you choose what information is important to you. Same thing with watching somebody trade. It's like you can't expect that person to give you everything you need. You can't expect to copy your trades. Just pick from it what you think will help you and move forward, right? It's you can't cater to everybody. Because the only reason I say that is there's new people that say I want to see trades, and I've actually had experienced traders who run hedge funds at TradePro who have left because we show trades, right? So there's two sides of that coin. And yeah, I lost the thought process, but I'm gonna end it there.
It's a good point.
Well, it is getting a little bit late.
It's still
We
my
had
first beer. I
one-
swear, I ran out of water.
Oh,
So I'm
nice.
working on-
We had one other question from Bear that I kind of wanted to get out here real quick. If you can kind of explain NLP and how you use it in your approach to trading. Also, what is NLP again? I can never remember what the acronym is.
NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. So neuro, brain, linguistic, language, programming, right? So it's really how you talk to yourself and about things. And I'm going to tell you this, like, I'm an Eastern European male, you know, and I have, you know, raised in an Eastern European background. When I first heard the concept, I'm like, this is like stupid. Like, who believes in this, right? Like, I'll be honest with you. I'm like, this is the most stupid thing you could ever come up with, whatever. I actually like tried to put my energy towards discrediting it so I wouldn't admit my own weakness. You know, that's how, So what NLP essentially does is the way that you talk to yourself creates programs. And so it could be something, the obvious ones are like, I'm never going to become a trader, right? The not obvious, the subconscious, below the surface of your mind are things like I'll give you an example. There's only 2 fears humans are really programmed with that you can't remove. And I got to learn those having 2 sons. One is sudden loud noises. I use that on them sometimes to get them to calm down. And the other one is falling. I'm not going to admit to, doing that to them, but the kids have only 2 emotions. That's all you're born with, 2 fears. So, where did you get the fear of losing money means that you're going to fail in life? Something programmed it, right?
Mhm.
And so neuro-linguistic programming is the art of, it's basically like the lost user manual for your brain is how I like to explain it. Is you can change things, right? People think that, oh, I'm always the kind of person that does this. You don't have to take that to the grave. Unless you make changes, you're on a train track going the same way. And you're going to, like, I see people who want different results but do the same thing. And I'm like, just through like simple analysis, I could tell you where you're going to be in 70 years.
Yeah.
And the exact same place. And like, that's so mean. That's so rude. I'm like, well, that's
Do
reality,
something
right?
different.
Exactly. Yeah. So neurolinguistic programming is that. And there's different techniques and strategies. So if you have like fears, I think that's the one that's super relevant. Fear in trading. We look at fear of trading and people think, oh, it's losing money. Guess what? Fear of trading is actually winning, right?
Mhm.
If you grew up in a household where your parents told you have to do a 9-to-5 job, like risk is not something you should take. Money is for rich people. It's not for you. You think you're going to just accept success? On the days you're winning, you're going to find a way to lose that money because that's what you've programmed yourself to be. So NLP is kind of the process of changing your programming, because if you don't, no matter what you do logically, subconsciously, you're going to go back to the same result you've always been to. And if that's something you don't like, you can't get to anywhere else unless you work on the subconscious layer. And it took me a long time to realize that, man. If I had that at a younger age, they should really teach this in school. Like I would have been, I'm trying to think of an appropriate analogy, but a really bad one came up. But I would have definitely been a lot more productive in my younger years. I did a lot of stupid stuff, guys. Like I'm not pretending to be perfect here. I did a lot of dumb stuff that, in hindsight, like thank God there's no social media when I was growing up, because I'd be toast. Like these kids these days that we kind of like, oh, I can't believe they did that. Like you didn't do it. No one was recording you all the time, So so basically what I'm trying to say is that's what NLP is like working on your mindset. And to me, that was a big thing. Because again, coming from Europe and I'm from Bulgaria, my dad always told me, you got to pay for things in full. Don't use credit, whatever. And guess what? I made a lot of my money in real estate using credit to finance a transaction. So it's identifying those limiting beliefs. And then for those limiting beliefs, there's no wonder. There's very specific techniques to help you remove fears, phobias, fears of success, fears of failure, programming from your past. This is where it gets a little woo-woo, but there's actually programming that you can have from a past life. There's times when you do a technique where somebody says, did this happen to you before or after you were born? It's a confusing question, right? If I ask you, Kyle, did this happen to you before you were born? You'd be like, this guy's like had too many beers.
There was no before I was born, bud.
There you go. So then when you
get concerned,
when you get asked that question, your response is actually a subconscious response because logically you're confused.
Mm-hmm.
So there's these techniques you could do, and they're very relevant in trading for times when you get into a situation where you lose one trade. Have you guys ever had a day where you lose one trade and then it's 10 a.m. and then suddenly it's 4 p.m. and you look at your journal, you're like, holy shit, I lost 50% of my account and I don't feel like it was me that did it. You ever feel like that?
I've had that. It's been a long time since I've had that, but I've had that before.
Yeah, I've had it too. Like in my earlier days, especially, I've had that multiple times. I've blown out so many accounts. Victorio's the only trader I know that hasn't blown out an account.
And Victoria's the only person I know doesn't have emotion.
Yeah, Vic is like a robot.
Yes,
Vic Bot, we call him.
You crafted him in a building somewhere.
He's an algorithm.
He's the Drago of trading.
Yeah, NLP is great. So,
did you have any books or any other recommendations where people can read more? Bear says the one he read is NLP: The Essential Guide. I don't know if you had any other recommendations.
NLP's actually been a really big thing in Australia for a long time. I don't know what it is about the Aussies, but they're tapped in a lot more into it, right? It's also a very controversial field because the creator of it had some super legal, like honestly, man, if you made a story or movie about the origin of NLP, it's borderline like a crime scene story. Like, so like what
You're
I'm
not
saying
selling this
is,
too well.
there's hey, I told you I'd give you the reality. Depending on where you go with books, like there are some that like kind of tarnish it a little bit, but if you just look at the tools and what it helps you do, because the creator of it and his intentions weren't pure. But the thing is, you can't program yourself to do something that's going to hurt you, because that's against subconscious rules. So a really good book to understand the subconscious mind. Before you learn NLP, I would get you to learn what the subconscious mind does, the function of the subconscious mind, because that's what we're changing, right? Your subconscious mind makes up 99.96% of your brain, and 0.004 of your decision making is logical. So if you spend 100 hours training your logical brain how to trade better, you've trained yourself to be perfect at 0.04% of your brain processing power, right? So understanding the subconscious mind is far more important than NLP at the very beginning, because NLP is a process of changing it. And you don't want to change your subconscious mind if you don't know how it works, because it has the ability to actually go negative, like the butterfly effect. You don't want to just go and start doing these strategies with NLP. So the Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murray, mind-blowing book. I will caution you that, depending on what your beliefs are, it does go a little bit into religion, but if you replace God that he uses with the universe, it makes it acceptable pretty much for everyone to read. I'd start there for sure. That book changed my life.
All right, I love that, man. Yeah, I'll make sure I put a link to that in the episode description. We are probably running a little bit long here, though, so I think maybe it's time to wrap this thing up. I'd like to say thank you here to George, Baba, Banks for joining me on this fine evening. Everyone listening for stuck around to the end, thanks for dropping those questions in there and interacting. Please show our panelists some love. Click on those links in the show notes. Remember, you can check out our combined Discord where you can trade with Baba Banks live every Friday morning on the free side. You can heckle us in real time on these recordings. You can even compete in our Friday M period challenges. We will be back soon with another exciting episode, hopefully as funny as the crypto futures symbols. But until then, politely tap that 5-star rating and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Love y'all.
This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute financial or investment advice and should not be construed as such. The hosts, guests, and contributors of this podcast are not licensed financial advisors, brokers, or professionals. Any trading or investment decisions made based on the content of this podcast are solely at the listener's discretion and risk. Trading and investing in financial markets carry inherent risks, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Listeners should conduct their own research and seek advice from qualified financial professionals before making any financial decisions. The views, opinions, and information shared in this podcast are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of the podcast creators or associated organizations. Produced by China Shop Productions.